I learned a new word today. Fabulist. Fabulist, a person who creates or relates fables. Not to be confused with fabulous. So today I will be your fabulous fabulist, sharing some of my collection including fantasy novels, mythological anthologies, children's books and short story collections to celebrate World Folktales and Fables Week, which is happening March 15th to 21st this year. This is just some of the stack that I will be showing you, and yes, it's in a weird nonsensical order because that's the order I will be showing them to you in. I did undertake some research going into this video because I couldn't help but wonder what is the definable difference between folktales, folklore, myths, legends, fairy tales and fables, because yes, there are some more discernible, distinguishable differences, like myths being very different to fairy tales, and there is a lot of overlap, but folklore is the umbrella term under which the rest fall. Basically, what makes fables more specific is that they are usually short stories featuring often inanimate objects that have personalities or animals that can talk, that have a clear moral message. So let's start. Whoa. Let's not slip of the tongue today. Since fables are short and sweet, just like Sabrina Carpenter, let's start with those, including the most famous fabulist, Aesop. Aesop is said to be the author of many famous fables, including The Tortoise and the Hare, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and The Lion and the Mouse. Even now, historians are still unsure whether he was definitely a real person or is more of a legendary figure himself. And I just love this collection that my best friend gifted to me for my birthday last year. Also, her hair is purple and this is purple, so... This one I just flipped to has an interesting name. Aesop had a sense of humour, didn't he? What I love about this edition of Aesop's Fables, because of course they've been produced many times, is that this one has such beautiful, varied illustrations from different illustrators. My next book in my collection is Hag, Forgotten Folktales Retold. Here are sisters fighting for a love of the same woman, a pregnant archaeologist unearthing impossible bones and lost children following new home. A panther runs through the forests of England and pixies prey upon violent men. From the islands of Scotland to the coast of Cornwall, the mountains of Galway to the depths of the fens, these forgotten folktales howl, cackle and sing their way into the 21st century, wildly reimagined by some of the most exciting women writing in Britain and Ireland today, including Daisy Johnson, whose work I've read before and really enjoyed, and many others. Look at that matching. This book about woodlands and forests, wild gods, world trees and werewolves is just one of the books in the Treasury of Folklore series, though I don't have the other books because I haven't read this yet and I'm not allowed to get them until I actually go into this. But I love the art style and I just think it's a really interesting concept. The other books include information and stories about creatures of waterways and other places that I just think is so beautiful. An enthralling collection of myths, folktales and traditions surrounding our trees, woodlands and forests from around the world, which I really enjoy because I feel like a lot of these books traditionally that I read growing up were very Eurocentric, and so I like branching out. From the dark, gnarled woodlands of the north to the humid jungles of the tropics, trees have captured humanity's imagination for millennia, filled with ancient gods and goddesses, tree spirits, and the fairy tales of old. The forests offer sanctuary, mystery, and more than a little mischievous trickery. Come into the trees, witches, goddesses, and big bad wolves await you. I picked this up in London in a bookshop called Treadwell's that is really beautiful and has a really cool, interesting collection about myths, legends, the occult, etc. If you'd like to see the vlog in which I actually bought this book, I'll link it in the description, as well as my haul that I did from that trip to London, Sweden and Denmark. These look like prints to me, like they've done printmaking, and I just think some of them would be really cool tattoos. Maybe not this one for me personally, but just as an example. This next book is teeny tiny but full of info about mythical creatures. How cute is it? I bought this book from Metropolis Books in Melbourne, which is a really cool sort of alternative bookshop with a specific curated collection. This book is mostly illustrations of mythical creatures, and it breaks them up into sections based on where you can find them. For example, sky, land, forest, water, and divine realms. It features creatures from around the world in their many represented forms, including paintings, artworks, sculptures, woodblock prints, and in architecture as well. And of course, we can't have a video like this without mentioning possibly the most famous fairy tale writers, which are the Brothers Grimm. I have this little copy from the 1960s, which includes some cute illustrations too, as well as this much chunkier version that I've had for probably 15 years or something now, which looks like a Disney painting of Snow White on the inside. And just in case you didn't know, they are famous for many stories. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, and more, including Godfather Death, which I was not familiar was one of their stories until I picked up the book Godfather Death, written by Sally Nichols and illustrated by Julia Sada, who is becoming one of my favorite illustrators. While Godfather Death is a picture book and it's not very long at all, it is quite sad, so I would not necessarily recommend it to children because it has quite adult themes about mortality in it. Kids definitely can read this, but I think it has to be a certain type of kid who enjoys the macabre and isn't too easily scared, or is not too young, of course. The illustration's just beautiful. Another name we can't go without mentioning, of course, is Hans Christian Andersen. This one is from the 70s, but of course you can get many different editions of his work. He's famous for creating the story of The Little Mermaid, with a sadder ending than the Disney version gives it. He also wrote The Snow Queen and The Ugly Duckling. Now, moving forward a bit into some modern anthologies of older and ancient stories, which are child-friendly. First, I have a book by Jen Campbell, which is The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers, an anthology of different fairy tales from around the world, all of which, except I think one, I had never heard of until I read this book. The illustrations are lots of fun as well. Depending on the child's age, some of these could be a bit scary, so handle with care. Next, we have a book dedicated to arguably my favorite, though I do have many, mythical creatures, which are mermaids, and this is the Mermaid Atlas. I read this recently and loved it because not only does it go into the story of Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid, but mermaids from all around the world, and it is broken up into different continents. So you can learn about the mermaids that you never knew existed. I could say this about basically all the books I'm showing you because I'm a sucker for beautiful illustrations, but these ones really take the cake. My next anthology is Winter Tales. Even the back is superb. Snuggle up by the fireside with this heartwarming collection of tales celebrating the wonders of winter. Explore frozen lands with snow maidens and bear kings, and follow heroes and heroines on epic journeys that will test the power of friendship. From North America to Siberia to China and Scotland. Several of these do have a very fable-y kind of feel to them, with a message to take away from the story. This next book, I can't wait to read because it seems truly magical, and it is Magical Hoofbeats. I was a horse girl growing up. I loved the Saddle Club, Bratz horses, Barbie horses, anything horses. I would have loved this if I'd known about it. Some of them can talk, others can fly. Some can gallop faster than the wind. Others can make themselves invisible, but whatever their special gifts, all of the horses and ponies in these stories are truly fabulous. Each and every one of them knows just how to help its rider get out of trouble, and each of them will do everything it can to ensure that good triumphs over evil. Along the way, the adventures they have with their riders will transport you to places you never dreamt of. Magic Hoofbeats also includes fascinating information about the different breeds of horse that live in the countries from which these tales are taken. So start reading and swing into the saddle. The stories in Magic Hoofbeats come from places like North America, Russia, French Canada, Albania, Hungary, India, and Iran. If you are also concerned about what's going on at the moment in Iran, I have left a link in my description to where you can donate, because everyday people shouldn't suffer because of the choices of a few. This next section becomes a bit more mythological because I have a lot of books in that kind of category. And the first one is a kind of good starter because I'll show you a collection. This first book is called Heroines and Goddesses by Jean Mingus and is illustrated by Katie Ponder, both of whom are very talented. This collection of thrilling tales and need-to-know profiles introduces a host of inspiring and formidable female characters. Prepare to join Mulan in battle, witness the magic of Rhiannon, and confront the witch Baba Yaga. I love this book, as well as Jean Mingus's other works in this same collection, including Greek myths, Egyptian myths, and Norse myths. This is the only one out of those that Jean Mingus did not write. This one is written by Matt Ralphs, but they are all illustrated by Katie Ponder. This is the only one I haven't read yet out of the pile, and I can't wait to read this one. But I do think that all of them are a really good introduction into whatever you want to learn about, whether it is Norse, Greek, Egyptian, or general gods, goddesses, and important mortals in the stories. I keep almost going to call her Jean because I feel like I know her, even though I don't, because I've followed her YouTube channel for so long, which you should also check out if you love myths and myth retellings and such, because she hasn't just written children's books either about mythology, she's also written novels for adults. This is her new book, The Lady of the Lake, which was released last year, which is a reimagining of Arthurian legend. Show me your realm, Lady of the Lake. When Lady Vivian takes the lakes of the far north for the splendor of Camelot, she knows the destiny her father has planned for her, to capture the heart and hand of the young prince Arthur, to bring her family riches and glory. But it is Arthur's sister Morgan who captures Vivian's eye. Fierce and headstrong, Morgan sees another path, one she and Vivian can carve for themselves in this world built for knights and kings. Under the guidance of the court sorcerer Merlin, they discover magical powers within themselves, and before long, Vivian finds her friendship with Morgan deepening into the first flush of love. But in Camelot, eyes are everywhere, and no one is as they seem. The quest for power breeds darkness and danger, and when Arthur pulls the legendary sword from the stone and rises to king, the terrible demands his allies make will tear Vivian and Morgan apart. And if they cannot find their way back to each other, Camelot itself could fall. Don't know if this is going to have a happy ending or not, because, not gonna lie, I don't know that much about Arthurian legend, and most of my knowledge comes from the TV show Merlin that I watched as a teenager. My next book is also a fantasy novel, which is The Morrigan by Kim Curran. And the Morrigan in Irish mythology, folktale, is seen as a figure of, or a goddess of, war. They called me the Morrigan. I was magnificent. I was multitudes. They twisted my story, stripped me away, but I will tell it now in my own voice. It begins, as all the best stories do, in darkness. A girl who can change shape from bird to beast to goddess. A girl who dreams of battle, of blood, of death and power. She doesn't know yet that a woman who seeks to rule will always be in danger, and that there are far more treacherous figures in this land than the gods who raised her. She does not know that one day love will burn so deep in her heart that its scars will never heal, that she will know pain so raw and pure it will almost tear her apart. She does not know that her journey will take 1,000 years, that her name will be remembered for 1,000 more. She is the Morrigan, and she is waiting, a girl with rage coiled in her chest. Beautiful, powerful, ravenous rage. A rage that will live forever. Again, don't know much about this, so intrigued to learn something, even though of course it's a retelling, so it's probably different from the original myths. These next books, while the stories themselves are new, they do include some creatures and characters from folklore. Starting with Onibi, Diary of a Yokai Ghost Hunter, which is a graphic novel. In Japanese folklore, yokai are different spirit creatures. They can be ghosts, monsters, shapeshifters, and are often tricksters as well. This is a new story set in the modern day about two children from France, I believe, who purchase a camera that, when taken, captures the spirit world. What they find is a Japan where the natural and supernatural worlds have always coexisted, for hidden along country lanes and in the shadows of old Shinto shrines are ancient spirit foxes, ghouls, and other yokai ready to play tricks on unsuspecting passers-by. Sometimes they even lurk in places you may never expect. This next book is The Owl Witch, which is also illustrated by Julia Sada, who did the Godfather Death book. This one. I wasn't sure if this story was a new one or a retelling, or if there were traditionally owl witch characters, creatures in folklore somewhere. And through my tiny bit of research, I did discover that owl women or owl witches did exist in Greece, Mexico, and in Native America. Or at least the stories of them. You know what I mean. The owl witch lives alone in a house perched high above the ocean. Sailors and fishermen are afraid of her, but one winter's evening the mysterious Noor appears at her door. Together they embark on an adventure deep beneath the waves where the sea folk live. This book features a trickster octopus, and the main event problem part of the story and how it was solved lives rent-free in my brain, because I just think, yes, so simple yet so clever in terms of thinking outside the box. Again, some of my favourite illustrations. Cannot go on enough about them, apparently. Oh, okay, but maybe to be rivaled by the next one, actually. This next book is a children's picture book called Ning and the Night Spirits by Adriana Fong. I love this book. I recommend this book to everyone. This is a new story, but it feels classic and has a folklore feel about it, especially because it features some real mythical creatures from Chinese folklore. Ning has always heard tales of the scary night spirits that live near his town. Secretly, he wonders if they're really as bad as everyone says, but is much too shy to ask. When Ning finds himself in the forest by night, he meets a creature who introduces him to the spirit's secret world, and he discovers that not all is as it seems. A magical story about confronting fears, confidence, and a little boy who finds his voice. It has a folklore feel, but with a fairy tale happy ending. This book is very wholesome and cute, but also, if you wanted to, you could discuss other things that this brings up with your kids, including about how there's a human impact on nature and how human decisions can impact nocturnal animals. You could even go into like colonization with this if you really wanted to, because the area basically gets colonized by people and they kick out the night spirits, and isn't that an allegory and a half? My final book for today is definitely not kid friendly, and it is a fairy tale anthology. So some twisted tales for the grown-ups like you and me. It is Angela Carter's book of fairy tales. You might have heard of Angela Carter, who's also written other things, but what she's known for, I have found mostly, is her twisted, dark, nasty, gnarly fairy tale retellings. Once upon a time, fairy tales weren't meant just for children, and neither is Angela Carter's book of fairy tales. Lyrical tales, bloody tales from countries all around the world, and no dippy princesses or soppy fairies. Instead, we have pretty maids and old crones, crafty women and bad girls, enchantresses and midwives, rascal aunts and odd sisters. This fabulous celebration of strong minds, low cunning, black arts and dirty tricks could only have been collected by the unique and much missed Angela Carter, because she passed away in the 90s. I have had this book since 2013 or 14 or something like that, when I really got into BookTube, and guess what? I have not read it yet. That needs to be rectified immediately, but I think because it's so thick, I don't know where to start, and it's not something that I would probably binge read. You know, it's a dip in, dip out kind of book. Thanks for watching. I do have heaps more mythology books, so if you would like to see a mythology specific book collection video, please let me know, or maybe even a whole collection tour. in the comments, let's discuss. What are your favorite fairy tales, folk tales, or fables? And are there any lesser known ones that you really enjoy? Because I'm always open to find out more. Happy World Folk Tales and Fables Week to you, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. To celebrate World Folk... See, it's a tongue twister. These next books I have... Wow, I have... These next book, wow. I bought this when I bought this. Bleh.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Oh, and I got pins and needles in my leg. Ah!